Hey there, everybody. Petty Officer Glover here with Nuking It Out. Here again today with another interview. Today, I've got Chief Valerie Barber down in Norfolk, Virginia. How's it going today, Chief Barber?
Pretty good. How are you?
I am great. So you have had a pretty interesting Navy career, so I want to talk to you about today. So just to start off, where are you from? What were you doing before you joined the Navy?
So I joined the Navy from Miamisburg, Ohio. Actually, I joined out of Dayton, Ohio, down on 4th Street. And to give you like a good grasp of like the area that our recruiting station was in, I accidentally locked my keys in my car one day, and someone actually helped me break into my car to get my keys out because I shouldn't have been on that street late at night. And that was Dayton, Ohio. But it was an interesting little area to live, and I'm glad that I joined the Navy from there. It gave me a lot of good references and stories to tell.
So how old were you when you actually joined the Navy?
I'm pretty sure I stepped in at 17, and then left when I was 18.
So what took you into the recruiting office in the first place?
My grandfather was Navy, and the Air Force wouldn't take me. Yeah.
That seems to be a refrain for all of us.
Yeah. So the town I was from was really close to a really big Air Force base, and so the Air Force was full. They notoriously just like kept sweeping up all the good people and were like always full. So Navy took me, and I was okay with that.
So when you went in to join the Navy, did you know about the nuke program, or was it just, hey, I'm going to join the Navy?
I was going to join the Navy. I wanted to be a firefighter. My grandfather was a huge firefighter of the year, Niles, Michigan. It was a really big part of our background. And my other grandfather was a machinist mate when he first joined the Navy and was part of the first portion of the aviation mechanic program. I actually have this picture up on the wall. It's a little bit behind me from when he graduated from his A school and from boot camp. It's that big in our family. So when I walked in that recruiter's office, I said, I'm just here to join. And somehow I got picked for the nuclear program.
So what was your experience like going through the nuke school? You know, did you have a good time with it? Was it hard? What was your favorite and, not so favorite parts of it?
I'm a very blunt person, so I'll put it out there, is not easy. It is not easy at all. But if you work hard and you want to get something out of it, you pass it no problems. Nuke school is what you put into it, right? So A school is easy. You learn things like this is a wrench. This is what you do with the wrench. For the ETs and, obviously your rate electricians, this is electricity. This is what not to do with electricity. And to me, it was just magic. So obviously I'm a mechanic for a reason. But for power school, I struggled. I had probably the hardest time when it came to tests. I'm not a test-driven person. I can talk through things better than I can write things down. And so I would study my heart out. But at the end of the day, the guys I was studying with became family. When we graduated from power school, I had people living in my house waiting to go down to Georgia. I had people that crashed on my couch, and to this day I still keep in contact with the guy that I left boot camp with and went through the pipeline with me. So you meet some of the best people and the best friends that you could ever dream of. In fact, you interviewed one of my good friends that ended up being my roommate later on after I graduated from school and got through the pipeline. So
I love it. Took me a second to figure out who you were talking about.
Oh.
So you got to prototype. That's where I met you first as a student. And then tell about your what kind of program you went into while you were there.
So I was picked up as what's called a junior staff instructor now. I believe so. When I got picked up, it was called a staff pickup. So SPOO is what you were called. I got picked up with a bunch of good friends of mine. So essentially that program, you do your shore duty before you go to sea. It's not for everyone. It was really tough. You get the you get the best of both worlds almost, but then you get the worst of both worlds. So you make rank really fast, but then when you show up to your ship, you're expected to lead sailors, and you might not have experienced that before. You might not have led. In my case, it was, you show up and each division has 80 to 90 sailors, and I showed up as a first class to my first ship, and I don't regret it. It was the best experience for me at that time. I have and I'm heavy in a maintenance background, but you miss out on some of the things that the fleet provides when you do that. But then you get other things for it. Like I said, like a good maintenance background.
So you went from prototype, and then where was your first sea command?
The great ship USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. I love that ship. It definitely makes you a stronger sailor. That ship is. So when I got there, we were in a shipyard environment, and it's an older ship, and you learn really quickly how to fix it. And it was one of those things where you show up and stuff is broken and it's got to be fixed. And so that was the environment I got into, and that's how I qualified and everything. But some of the best times I had were on deployment on the Ike. It was a ton of fun. I think I've sent you a picture before. I got to re-enlist on a helicopter over the Gulf when we were on deployment. We had just pulled out of, I think, Bahrain, and we were going to Dubai, and I got to ride a helicopter on patrol, and I saw a 17-foot sea snake. I'm exaggerating, but that thing was scary. We got to go investigate other ships and everything. So I had a ton of fun on my first ship.
So a lot of questions that I get when I'm talking with people who are looking to join the Navy, especially women, are what's it like being a woman on a Navy ship, especially something like an aircraft carrier where realistically women make up about 20 to 25% of the crew?
Again, it's one of those situations where it is what you make of it. So I was always lucky. So our berthing, we had all mechanics in my berthing. So we were all the same rates. So we all had something in common. And that's the best thing about being on an aircraft carrier is even if you don't like the people in your division, there's like 50 more divisions you can just pick people from. You will find someone that you have something in common with somewhere on the ship. There's 5,000 people when you go out on deployment. So I never really had an issue with it. When I was on the ship, we only had 3 to 4 female first classes. We had a few female chiefs. They were in and out. The 2 female chiefs that we had, the longest got picked up LDO and left before we went underway. So, it gives you the opportunity to kind of, excel in that area. There's so few of you. So if you want to be a mentor for junior female sailors, it gives you that opportunity. There's definitely that void in the Navy where I've definitely seen a lot of junior female sailors just jump up into those mentorship roles for their fellow female sailors, and it's great. Berthings are great. There's a Starbucks on an aircraft carrier. I know you don't know what that is, but I do.
Maybe I've seen it through the periscope.
Oh no, you wouldn't. It's too crowded. There's too many people around the Starbucks. So, but I mean, it's one of those things where you can have the best of times or the worst of times. It's just the experience is what you make of it. There's good and bad in every ship. It's a job. Like you're still working every day. But you get a lot of off time to cultivate those friendships. There's one girl I know where there's 10 or 12 of them. They're super close and they go on crazy trips with each other. Like, I think she was planning on going to Fiji before all this coronavirus stuff happened. But that's the type of friendships you make, like that you're like, oh, let's just go to Fiji, man. Jump on a plane, come with me. And they go vacation with each other.
So what was your deployment like? Because you said you've been mentioning your deployment. Well, where did you go? What was your favorite part of it?
Ooh, back in the day. So carriers have like a few different cycles. So I'll go with that through that with you. So you have the shipyard period, and then coming out of the shipyard period, you're doing your post shipyard checks. And so you're just underway a bunch of times. And then leading up to the deployment, you do like a pre-deployment underway time period where you're getting certified. On the Ike, we had a very condensed version. So we were underway a lot of the time, almost every month. So then when we went on deployment, it was great though. We had already worked out everything. We knew how to operate together. So we went on deployment, I want to say it was 2016. I know I'm terrible with dates, but it was great. So our first port, we went to Italy. We went to Naples. That was a lot of fun. It's different if you've never anchored out in the Med before. It is an experience like none other. The rough seas in the Med put you right to sleep in your rack at night. Like it's great. But Italy was fun, not my favorite. From there, we went through the Suez Canal, which that is, if you've never done that, is quite the experience. Like you get to go topside, you get to see Egypt, you get to see Gibraltar. There's all these like statues and like things that like landmarks that you would never get to see unless you're on a ship going through the Suez Canal.
So I've heard that with the aircraft carriers, there are certain spots where if you go up to the flight deck and you look over the port side, you'll see land. And if you look over the starboard side, there'll still be land because it's that narrow. Is that true?
Yeah, very much so. So it's one of those things where like, and you go back and forth and you're like, oh, there's this cool thing over here. And then you go over to the other side and there's like cars that are literally driving next to you. It's flabbergasting, but it's a lot of fun. So once you get through the Suez, we went to the Gulf. We did Bahrain, Dubai. We did Bahrain twice. We got a beer day out to sea. Never thought I'd be able to say I did a beer day on an aircraft carrier, but I did. It's not as good as you think, but it's definitely better than nothing. It's very hot over in the Gulf, so the beer was quite toasty after a certain amount of time. And then coming back, we hit up Marseille, France, and that was probably my favorite. I love Marseille. I love France in general. It was a very good experience.
So when did you transfer off of the Ike?
I transferred in December of 2017. We did a few more underways. We ended up going to Canada. We went to Nova Scotia, Canada, which is a great port to go to. We were the first carrier to pull in there in something like 10, 15, 20 years. So it was a huge deal. And then I transferred off in our second shipyard period in December of 17.
So you made chief, right before you got off the Ike?
Right after. I made it the next year.
Gotcha. So why don't you explain to everybody, because I don't think a lot of people, even some people that are in the other branches, don't understand that significance.
So it was significant personally, as well as it's a career significant step. So my grandfather, when I joined the Navy and before he passed, was like, can't leave the Navy unless you make chief. This is something that dates back, a long time. And it's something that, anyone that served in the Navy is proud when they put on the chief anchors. It's a career. So for chief, you're selected. For first class, you take a test, right? You have to pass a test. Same thing with chief, but you actually go through boards and you're selected based off your performance, what your history is. And it's something that's saying like the mentors and the leadership in the Navy want you to take on this responsibility, because it's not really a rank, it's a responsibility. And it's a responsibility to, your junior sailors and protecting them, and then also to the Navy in general, saying, I've got this, I've got you guys, is the way I've always said it. So there's a chief out there that's probably cringing at the way I just described that. But it means a lot to me personally, because it was something that, there was a little bit of family history and heritage behind too. where it meant a lot to my grandfather that I get to that point. So it's also different than the other ranks where you go through a learning process before you put the chief anchors on. And I'll tell you what, it's very eye-opening, and it shows you who you are as a leader, or what you need to work on as a leader before you put those anchors on. I love it. I love everything about the history of it too. So
Great. So where are you at now? What's your current job in the Navy?
I'm currently an instructor. I'm at what's called the surface fighting. So it's at submarine learning facility. But essentially, I facilitate training for the ships to run through stuff on a simulator. It's the best job title description I can give.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to those when I was on my own ship, and those things are fantastic for really kind of keeping everybody sharp on everything.
Yeah, it's a good place to, it's a good place to learn things too. If you're not super confident and, maybe you just qualified, like I love those guys in the fighting because, everyone is very serious about our job, but it's a little bit more relaxing to do it on a simulator sometimes when you're like, I got this, and you're just building the confidence. The knowledge is there, but you just need all the confidence of standing that first watch.
I definitely remember those days. All right, so that is fantastic. So now comes my favorite part of this, the lightning round.
Okay.
I'm just a bunch of random questions. Just, don't think too much about it. Just answer quick as you can. There's no wrong answers. There's wrong answers. Yeah. All right. So start off easy. Who's the funniest person you've met while in the Navy?
I can't say you. That's just a give me right there. I would say the funniest person I've met in the Navy is probably he's a nuke mechanic master chief. His name is Brock Ludicky. He's good people, and he's actually retiring or retired soon. But he didn't meet his wife, but he and his wife started dating again because he was on The Price is Right. If that's not like one of the best stories to tell, but he had some really good zingers out there.
Your underway nickname?
I didn't really have one. I was Barber. that was how I was referred. I was a TPO, and then I was also an LPO on deployment. So I was, Pay Officer Barber.
Most accurate Navy movie?
Ooh, the sides down periscope, I'm going with Battleship on this. You
Really?
see some crazy on those surface ships. Like, you never know what's going to come out of the sky.
What's the first thing you did when you got home from deployment?
I stole my pillow back from my husband. He stole my pillow while I was on deployment because he liked it more. I was like, "What's this? Like, this is not cool." So I took my pillow back.
Guilty pleasure song?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Right now, it's Lizzo's, like, her entire album.
Okay. Favorite underway snack?
Ooh, what you can get your hands on. So when you are in the Middle East, they make all their soda with like pure cane sugar. So like their sodas are just so much better than what we have here. And then they give you chips, and they have like ketchup chips, and then they have like other things like that. So I really like their salt and vinegar chips compared to ours. It's just slightly different, but so good.
Secret talent?
I can knit. It's not a fun talent. I don't like to, but I do it if I want, like if I'm bored, especially in a quarantine situation.
Yeah, right. Best tattoo you have?
Oh, well, I have a few. This one's my most recent one. I've been playing with my arm sleeve. So over in France, it says Tapertant, je suis perdu. So losing you, I am lost. And it's an old sailing thing from France and Canada about if you lose the North Star, you're lost. So that's my tattoo.
Awesome. Favorite animal?
I'm going to go with cats because mine are currently glaring at me. So I feel, again, pressured into that choice.
All right. Last question. A little bit more serious. What would you tell 18-year-old you?
18-year-old me joining the Navy, it's going to be tough. There's going to be days that, you're like, why did I do this? But every time re-enlistments come up for me, I've done it. And I haven't looked back. It's been great. You just seize the day. You don't have regrets. You take on new challenges and you sign up for new challenges. I don't like being stagnant. And I've requested to do new and different duty stations every time. I think like finding those new challenges gives you something to look forward to. I'm headed off to pre-com, new platform. I've dealt with it a little bit, but not in the extremes I'm about to. I've never dealt with this type of shipyard, and I would tell 18-year-old me to just have fun with it.
Awesome. That's awesome. So thank you, Chief Barber, for agreeing to do this. I know I gave you a lot of choices on whether or not you wanted to do it. This has been EMN1 Glover with Nuking It Out. As always, if you want more information about the Navy Nuclear Power Program or anything to do with the Navy, please contact your local Navy recruiter. And most importantly, follow me on Instagram at EMN1_Glover. Forgot my own name there. Thank you guys and have a great day.